Okay, yeah, we're back here again. But this is, funny enough, this is only going to be voice. I don't think this records video.
Oh, that's fine.
that might be a downfall of this thing. But next week we get both audio and video together. You know what I mean? Every week.
As we learn more.
This time we get the audio perfect. Okay, so I listened to a great Programmatic SEO podcast. And this was wild. There was a lot of real insights that I learned from this person. So this person's name is Ethan Smith, and he was on Lenny's podcast. Have you heard of him?
I have not. I know you sent the link, and I think I opened it up somewhere. I'll have to check it out after this.
Yeah. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about a podcast on this pseudo podcast. So I'll drop the couple of nuggets that he had and just compress I think an hour and a half of the audio into a couple of things I picked up that were very interesting. So he implemented programmatic SEO. So he runs a programmatic SEO agency specifically.
Okay.
And so he does it for massive brands. One of the brands that I know that he did it for is masterclass.com. Mm-hmm. So the website where you can pay. I think now, before they used to do $100, but now it's $20 a month for any number of classes. But I think before you had to pay per class, which is wild. Sure. But take a look at this. So if you go to masterclass.com, actually on Google, if you do masterclass and then I think poached egg. Poached egg. Yeah, there's a masterclass.com articles on a poached egg. And so that's one of them. But he's basically created, you wouldn't think a masterclass has these kind of articles, but they have a ton of content. And this was their big thing of how they used content to grow. And Ethan Smith was a main driver behind it. So yeah, so he had he's actually had battle tested knowledge in the subject. I'll jump into some of the insights he mentioned in the podcast, and in no particular order. So first one, he talks about editorial versus technical versus programmatic SEO. Three things. The first one being editorial, where you write in content, right? So how to poach an egg, that someone has to write it. You can't replace poaching an egg with something else, and hopefully that will be the right thing Google will rank.
Right.
Technical is the technical stuff that you need to set up for your site. So things like internal linking. So every page that you have, if it doesn't have another page linking to it, Google doesn't know that it exists. Right? So every single page that you have, let's say you have 10,000 pages, they need to have links internally linking to each other. So this is something in in the classic form you'll see a page, and then at the bottom we'll say related recipes or related chefs or things like that. So when you do related, what you're doing is you're connecting one page to the other. So when Google looks at them, it actually has a path to go from one page to the other. And apparently, the more number of internal links, internal links is apparently very important. So the more you have, the better it is. Is that something that you've seen before or implemented?
I think the key with all things SEO is nuance. There are some sites that I have that I didn't set up any internal linking and they rank just fine. Other ones, they're 15, internal links per page.
I see.
And automatically implemented and not necessarily, interlinked in the middle of a paragraph, but all at the end saying, hey, here's our related posts based on the category that are query looped in. And that works as well. But I'd rather not go on my tangent about SEO advice just yet.
No. You actually said this word before too, or this phrase, the query loop. Is that specific to WordPress and the things you use? How do you set up a query loop and what is it?
So that is basically you can set parameters that are automatically inserted somewhere in a post or a page where, depending on the parameters that you set, it will pull data automatically. So you could have something like what I've set up for lazy internal links would be at the end of the article, like you said, here's related posts. You can have it set up so, hey, I want you to pull any post with the category of X, include that at the end of this post, and then it'll have all those down there at the bottom. or you could have the actual, I don't know, just all posts. You could use that, like when it's almost like with the default WordPress homepage, that is a list of blog posts. It's almost like that's a query loop that you don't really have to set up, but it's just a reverse chronological of all posts. You could have something like that anywhere on your site with a query loop. It's just automatically pulling information depending on the parameters that you set.
And that's a WordPress feature, or is it a WordPress plugin feature?
I think there is now a default like block. If you use Gutenberg in WordPress, I use generate blocks. That query loop. I think it does the exact same. I've never actually experimented with either, or one or the other. But yeah, it's just used to pull information automatically.
Got it. Yeah, that's exactly what you need apparently. So here's another thing, by the way. So links in the navigation, meaning if you put, let's say, this query loop links in the footer, they don't count as much. They have to be in the body. So you can't just have one footer that's like the same across every single page and be like, all right, I'll just drop like 100 links down there and we're good to go. It specifically has to be in the body. Whether it is as like, clump of links at the end of the body text, in between, up top, it doesn't matter. But it can't be in the navigation, meaning either in the header or in the footer. The weightage that you get in the body is way more than if it was in the footer. So that is one thing. And number two thing is the spread of you might. So he was saying basically, when you do like an audit of your website, you might find that some pages have way more internal links coming back to them and some don't. So, and some like basically zero. So like, for example, if you like do most like top like trending posts, for example, like that could be related at the bottom. And if there's like one post that's like way too trending, that's always going to be like capturing most of the links rather than the one that is not trending. It's not going to show up. So that page is not going to do as well. One of the things or exercises you could do is figure out which pages are not getting enough attention and then spread your links, internal links, evenly throughout the whole website rather than one being linked to too much and then the other one's not. Mm-hmm. So that's a big think. And he dropped a tool. So he said the tool that he uses to specifically do this is called Screaming Frog. I think this is an old tool, I think, because it doesn't look cool, but it looks like it can do a lot of things. So screamingfrog.co.uk. Yeah, the website is kind of okay, but like you can see like the tool itself is like very like it looks like a bulky tool. But there's a free version and a paid version. So I'm curious to try out the free version and see what it does. But swears by this tool. Apparently, it's like the number one is Google Search Console. He recommended. Number two is Screaming Frog. Oh, actually no, I'm thinking that wrong. But he did mention in some order, Screaming Frog is important too. So it looks like you can do a lot of like audits, and then the added benefit of like the internal linking, and it shows you kind of like which pages and which pages not. So I thought that was very interesting, that you have to have it in the body and not in the footer. Because I was like, all right, I'll just drop it into the footer and then have the same footer across every page.
Yeah, I mean, I've also seen some websites where they'll have, in their footer, they'll have a sitemap link. And it's not the link to their, sitemap.xml. Yeah. It is a link to a page that is nothing but links, like internal links. And I have started doing that a little bit just to see, the query loop internal linking seems to be working just fine, especially depending on, it's all depending on your niche, and that's where the nuance comes in. Yeah. That blanket advice just really isn't always that great. But
yeah, of course. I'm really curious to see. That's why I think the last time we were talking, or the time before, you were talking about like having experimental websites, just like get some content, throw it out, see what it does, make some changes to it, and see what it does after. One of the great ways he says that you should be testing your websites is not just like you can have a hypothesis and then you can test it, but to generate a good hypothesis, the way you do it is you actually go to other websites that are already doing like good. So you go to like masterclass.com and you're like, all right, what are these guys up to? And then you figure out from like Ahrefs report or SEMrush report, of the patterns you're seeing. Maybe like, maybe they're like internal structures like built this way. Okay, what if I do the same thing? What would that do to my like results? So he does a lot of those kind of experiments, but the hypotheses come specifically from analyzing other people's websites that are already doing well.
Right. Yeah, I probably have like a suite of maybe like 5 to 10 websites that I look at and go, okay, what are these guys doing as far as how their menu's set up, how their pages are set up, their calls to action, all that kind of stuff. Things like NerdWallet. I'm not necessarily in the financial.
Great.
Yeah, but I look at them and just like, all right, how are their pages even set up?
The big thing about the NerdWallet, all I see is always there's like on the landing page it's like the best like travel credit cards, the best whatever. I'm like, how are they creating these pages? And these ones get massive traffic.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And it's just a list. It's just a list of credit cards, and then like annual fee, interest rates right next to them, and then apply now button. That's all they have.
Yeah, it's pretty insane. But I do like just kind of how they set up some of their call to action. That their boxes are set like their the formatting, the layout. That's what I look at a lot of times. And then also, like I said, the menus, like just seeing like what do they have, and it's like, oh, they have all their best of lists like you just brought up in their menu. They don't have them just somewhere in a blog roll and whatever. It's very easy to navigate, and their footer is massive. Their footer is like 2 pages long, like or 2 like browser pages, and it's just all links to all their other shit. And I was like,
yeah,
all right, that's what I need to start doing. Like,
yeah. Funny enough, I haven't looked at the NerdWallet and like what other kind of pages do they have. Is there any? So this is it. Is this like very specifically editorial SEO? Like, are they writing all this stuff? Because it seems like they are writing it rather than generating it.
Yeah, I think they're mostly writing. They have to be.
Yeah, because it's like one of the articles I'm looking at is like, what is the stock market and how does it work? I don't think you can like generate that somehow. If it was like, how do you buy an X stock, that would make sense.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
cool.
Student loan refund checks are arriving, but don't spend yet. Like, oh. All right, Cecilia.
Okay, yeah. So that was a big one. Here's the next one. I think this is common knowledge for us already because I think we're like new to the game. But folks that have been doing SEO for a while, they keyword stuffing is a big thing. So he was basically saying that Google now does keyword clustering. So best camera, best digital camera, best DSLR camera, those are all clustered under one keyword. Mm-hmm. So you don't have to spend a lot of time creating a page for all these kind of different variations, right? Like top X camera to buy. And that what you need to do is in Ahrefs, you need to figure out what the top keyword is or the cluster is, and then create a page for that. And then if you are obviously good enough, then Google will rank you for each of those in like other queries as well automatically. So instead of creating a page per keyword, you create a page per topic, which is really, really interesting. So the way to figure out which keywords fit into what topic is you type up the keyword in Ahrefs, and then it will give you related keywords. So you put one in and then you put the second in, and you see like if they're related or kind of similar, that means it's part of the same cluster.
Right. I think there's also a column in Ahrefs. I've only used Ahrefs for 1 month, but they have like a parent keyword, I think.
Oh, is that what it is?
I think there's a column for that where it's just most of these keywords probably belong to this main keyword. I mean, I don't think it's 100% accurate, but when you actually know what you're writing about or talking about, you probably can figure out whether that is the actual parent keyword or whatever, the topic cluster, whatever, what have you.
Yeah, this means that you now don't have to do like 30,000 keywords, for example, or like 30,000 pages. You're good enough if your pages are good enough that 3,000 would work as well, as long as those 3,000 are for like the keyword clusters or topics. And the last one I have is keyword clusters. No, you know what? That's all of them I have. I lied. Oh, by the way, here's another thing. We were talking about people always talk about, and this is another thing as well. I'll finish up here. Is the last thought I have is how we talk about pages need to be different significantly per like every single page has to be like significantly different. So for example, if you're like selling guitars versus selling pianos and you're a Shopify, you can't just have changed one word and then call it a day. Apparently you can.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so Shopify, if you just search up sell guitars Shopify, sell piano Shopify, the entire page is the same. Only the word is changed.
Right. Yeah.
It's crazy. There's about 1,000 words plus on that page, and how is if they can do it, that means is it only for established websites that they can get away with it?
I think for something like that, for keywords like that, yeah, absolutely. When you have that the authority or what have you, blah 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 blah. But I don't think it's exclusively, as far as you could do that for long tail keywords. That's what I'm doing for one of my sites. My very first programmatic SEO site, according to SEMrush or Ahrefs, whatever, gets no traffic. But if I just shared a tweet the other day and it's getting 900 in the last 30 days, 900 visitors.
Wow.
And literally all I changed was the proper noun. Every single page is the exact same. That was before I started doing kind of spin text, if you will. So every single page is the exact same. All I changed was the proper noun on the page. There's 44,000 pages, and it's working. So, but they're also so long tail they don't even show up in the SERPs. But when you have 44,000 pages,
yeah,
you're gonna get some traffic. So I don't think it's exclusive to those big companies, but to rank for anything significant as far as 500,000 plus search volume per month, yeah, you got to be one of the big dogs.
Yeah, that's really interesting because you get tribal knowledge saying, oh, Google is gonna say it's gonna penalize you because your content looks the same. But here is it's I guess if you are the big dog, you get the pass. But it is certainly possible, like you're saying, even as someone starting out, to get away with it just a little bit until maybe you start seeing that duplicate content thing is coming up in Google Search Console, where it tells you that we're not going to index the pages because of that.
Yeah, well, I don't know, because as far as duplicate content goes, I think people get that misconstrued, and I might be wrong in this. Duplicate content is more for copying stuff from another website, as opposed to there's no such thing as academic plagiarism when it comes to SEO. You can copy yourself all day, every day. So again, you can have the page 1,000 words and only changing one word. You're not going to get hit for duplicate content because it's not duplicate content. It's completely different content. It's just you
right.
Can't copy the exact same page 5 times, but you change one word, that's not the same.
Right.
So even if it's 99.9% the same, it's not duplicate. So. But of course, I may be wrong. Again, nuance. My experience is my experience, and I've copied my own stuff multiple times across domains and never been hit. It'd be I guess the example that could be used would be e-commerce sites, and how many times if you're selling one product in different colors in each of those pages has every
right.
one of those colors is a different page. You're not going to change the description that much, if at all. So. Yeah, duplicate content is strictly, as far as I know in my experience, copying from somebody else's domain, somebody else's site onto your site, not copying within yourself.
Interesting. I haven't done this before. This is probably something I should test out as well with the test site. But this is, I haven't done this before, so I can't really say. But if that's been your experience, then it makes sense. I think it makes sense. There was another thing he mentioned. So he was asked about ChatGPT and GPT-3 to generate the pages, and he basically said, which I agree with him. He basically said, if it's something factual, you would be using ChatGPT to generate an editorial type content. Right, because if you're just doing programmatic, which is moving around a few words, you don't really need GPT. But if you're doing how do I do XYZ, and then it'll generate an answer for you, and then you just put that out. So his thing was that it could be factually incorrect, which could lead to dire circumstances. So let's say you run 30,000 pages through the thing, you create 30,000 pages. There's no way you're gonna fact check all of them. If you
Right.
didn't want to write them, you're definitely not gonna review or check them, which you should be. And if those like misleading answers get out, and someone actually, things happen. So one of the examples he was saying, like, how do I diagnose my medical condition, right? That's a very serious thing. So if you run that through, which is, it's possible for someone to like create this, do this with because it's open, so anyone can really use it for anything. So I think it's the responsibility of the person that's running the project to be like, we should like heavily fact check this if we're gonna go this way, or like use it as a planner. So where like a ChatGPT or GPT-3 would give you an outline of where you should be writing, and then
Right.
you fill out the details.
Yeah, I think that's what I've used, because I have like the Jasper. I've had that for a few years, and in my experience with that, as far as just going in and cranking out long form content with like automatically generated, really doesn't work as that well. I mean, it doesn't rank, it doesn't perform. I don't think that's like a bad thing. For all these like GPT-3 and Chat GPT and all these, I just don't think SEO content is going to rank. And then going along with fact checking, I would never, ever, personally, I'd never publish anything health related, anything that could, dire results, or like, some people having like, pet websites where can dogs eat X, and it's like, if you're wrong, it's like, pets are going to die. I couldn't.
Yeah.
No, I'm not going to deal with that. But yeah, I think anything health related needs to be fact checked. I think GPT-3, as far as that goes, and generate content, I think what SEOs, just because we're in such a bubble of ranking and search traffic, I think GPT or AI generated content would be great for like social sharing content, clickbaity stuff, or top 10 lists of things to do in X city, where you're not trying to rank for something like that. You're trying to share it and get shares on Facebook and get it out there, or those top 50 lists for every state, and like, here's the worst city in every state, and then people go and they click because they want to figure out what the worst city is, and they scroll down to their city, and it's wherever. But SEO content, as far as AI generated, I haven't found a use case for it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's
as
troubling.
far as long form content goes. As far as long form content.
Yeah, that is true. That's a very good. So the way I would want to use it, and I'm trying to build this into Launchpad right now, is rephrasing. So let's say we come back to like top X cities in Y. You start off with an intro paragraph being like, "This city is great," or like here's the top 10 cities that are worse in the country, and blah 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 blah. I feel a little bit uneasy about like having the same block of text every single time across multiple pages. So I might actually run that sentence through GPT-3 and say, rephrase this just slightly. So it's the same sentence, just like, words moved around a little bit, or like using different words, which can make it seem like it's a different page, because that's how like we rewrite things. So that would, and this is coming back to like the duplicate content. If you do get hit with the duplicate content, maybe that's a strategy you can use. But I would feel a lot. That's what I would use the AI rephrasing for, specifically in writing content for programmatic.
Yeah, introductions. I think it's really good for like content summarization at the end of the article. Here's what we talked about. Here's what you should have gotten away from this. Really good for that. Like you said earlier, or he said in the podcast about generating outlines. Pretty good for that, especially if you don't know where to start. Rephrasing stuff. That's what I use it a lot for nowadays. Is I write the initial piece as far as programmatic goes, and then rephrase each sentence so many times to get those variations where it all has the same sentiment. The sentence does, but it's just it's different. I ran fast and I ran quickly virtually mean the same, but they're different.
Right.
So yeah, I think it definitely has use cases, but as far as just cranking out long form content, just generate. Yeah, you might have some success, but you're probably wasting more time than anything.
I'll be curious if someone already has like just I've heard like on Slack messages, whatnot, people saying, "Oh, I have one website that's all AI generated, and it's doing great." I'll be really curious to see like Ahrefs from those kind of websites. I just don't know which ones they are. I don't think people like divulge which exactly the site they're using it on.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, if you had a cash cow that took virtually no effort to make, well, not virtually no, but low effort to actually get up and running and making money, you want to disclose that. That's how this first website was with that's actually making some money from display ads. It's like that took me a few hours in total to just figure out how to use WPL import, and I just blasted it and it's working. So I'm not going to disclose that. I mean, if it goes to 0, then I'll be like, oh yeah, this was it. But as of right now, it's still going up and to the right. So
true. Cool. Yeah, that's everything I had.
Well, shit.
Yeah, I mean, let's pick it up next week as well. This is probably a wrap right now. But yeah, listen to that podcast. I probably didn't do it much justice. I was driving when I was listening to this. So I was like, how do I write this stuff down? So I just remembered the little tidbits I remember from the episode. But do go check it out. It is probably the greatest hour and a half of information, period.
Yeah, I got it pulled up here on the left screen, so
yeah. All right.
Get after that.
We'll see you guys next week.
Cool. Kick ass.